Mitch McConnell.
Evil.
They may be focused on, I want to be in the NBA or I want to be whatever, right? Where
Thanks for shutting up my dreams. But not going to be in the NBA, guys.
No, he's not going to be in the NBA.
I'm taking a new path to pursue something else I'm interested in. But this path, I could come back to it. I could revisit this. And yeah, maybe that is a song that I wrote that I thought was shit. And then I revisit it and it's good. And then I put it out.
I'm telling you, I need all the rights to your song. So if you ever pass away, I'm just going to go through the hard drive and just get cashed out, bro.
The stuff that you're talking about, that we are going to put out.
No, I'm talking about all your music, bro.
Proceeding through life with that perspective of I'm always learning and I'm always approaching things with discovery, kind of curiosity about the world. That's the most important thing to me, because I think the wonder is what life's all about.
Welcome back to the Side-by-Side Pack. Welcome back to the Side-by-Side Podcast with your hosts, Dimari and
Brandon.
Nice, man. So, where we engage in meaningful conversation in hopes to create unity in diversity by enlightening and inspiring minds one question at a time. We do that by bringing on two strangers each week to show we have a lot more in common than meets the eye. Today, we're doing things a little different. We still have two amazing people, but we only have one guest, and that guest is none other than our own co-host, Brandon Rizzo.
What's up?
How you feeling today, bro?
Feeling good. Feeling great.
Yeah?
Yes.
Looking great. Your piercing eyes are sometimes they're just enchanting, bro. It's I don't know what he's doing. Is he doing voodoo? Can he read my thoughts? I don't know, bro. It creeps me out sometimes. Super excited about this one, bro. So we're going to kick it off, word association.
All right.
A little rapid fire. Make it rapid fire for me, bro. Some of these people.
I know. I gotta live up to the game here.
Exactly, because we do hate on a lot of people that have come on and not done it. I'll start you off something light.
All right. What do we got?
Musicals.
Youth.
Nike.
Symbol.
Mitch McConnell.
Evil.
So good. Gotta unpack that now. Ribeyes.
Delicious.
I don't know if the camera picked that up, but your face, bro, it was like you already had it in your mouth, bro.
I got two grass-fed, thick ass ribeyes in the fridge chilling.
Oh, for real?
Waiting for tomorrow.
Look at that, already on top of it. So what you gonna do with it, though?
Throw them on the grill, baby.
You like the grill?
Pops is coming. Gotta
nice.
Make them a nice steak.
Heck yeah. That's good. Yeah. That's good. Nice ones. And Prince.
Legend.
Love it, man. This is good stuff. So much there. Obviously, the low-hanging fruit is Mitch McConnell.
Okay.
I gotta go there, bro. We gotta go there, bro. I say Mitch. You say evil. Mitch.
Evil. Mitch. Evil.
So why does evil come up in mind first?
A lot of reasons. I guess the main thing that I would say is he represents everything that is antithetical to what I believe in for not only a leader or somebody who you want in government, but just what he represents is just that crooked, works from the shadows, disguised lies and deception to kind of fulfill an agenda and manipulate manipulate people through the forces that be, through power, through elections, etc. So he just is a symbol for everything that I despise about politics and corrupt government.
I love it. That's so deep, bro. That's deep. That's really deep. This man said, if you look up the word evil, there's a picture of Mitch McConnell right there, bro. That's basically what
I think it's like, if you think, for me, the word evil has come to take on different, I guess, connotations to what the traditional sense of what the word, is normally associated with: good, evil, But I think when I say evil, it's like it's more than just somebody who is doing deceitful or bad things. Just again, I think he's a symbol for a lot of the things that I do not stand for, whether that's his policies, whether that's shadow government, pulling the strings, manipulating things. At the same time, respect, recognize, guy's good at his job. He does what he's got to do. Really, but yeah, it's just not what I'm about. So, but what's funny is one time I was at work in LA, like the first year I lived there, and I swear I saw him in the mall that I was working at, and something inside me was just like, like I just do not like this guy because everything he's done. And yeah, I'm just not about it.
Not about that Mitch, that Eminem life, not that Eminem. Yeah. That's really interesting. I don't know. It's crazy how politicians can actually just go through life and people don't even recognize them. And they have so much power, especially at that level.
Right.
And he was probably in the mall and you were probably one of 2,000 that noticed him.
Well, yeah, but then again, I was in LA, so I feel like people in LA would know who he is because they're so left, so would recognize him just because they also don't like him, but for different reasons.
Yeah. I wonder. That's interesting. I wonder if they would just recognize the name more than the face.
Yeah.
I know I've been taught to hate Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
But I have no idea what he looks like. I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see. But then, another thing you said, I said musicals.
Yeah.
You say youth. What does that mean exactly?
So I've always loved musicals. Growing up, they were a big part of kind of my upbringing / I would say part of some of my musical influence. So I grew up in a town that had a lot of I was in the show choir in high school that was pretty nationally renowned. So we competed all over the country. But even before that, I was in choir and stuff, and dramatic stuff or drama, or the plays that the city put on or whatever. And so musicals were just always kind of a thing in the background of my youth, and some of them were really inspiring to me. So I loved the musical Newsies. It's one of my all-time favorite. Newsies, you never seen it?
No.
It's a musical about the paper boys of the labor movement in the 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s.
Okay.
And how they basically made kids work, obviously.
For sure. Well, I think the kids wanted to work.
Right, but these band of boys, it's based off a true story of how the unions formed and then protested and got better wages around that time. But it's set against this story of these newsboys who are all orphans and coming from the gutters and the streets, and they live in this orphanage, and then they go and they work for the newspaper stand and sell newspapers. But there's some iconic music in that musical, and also that's where Christian Bale's one of his first breakout as a kid roles that he was in
America,
and a bunch of others.
He's from Wales or something.
Yeah. It was it's an American musical. And then Rent, love Rent. We talked about Elvin Ailey with Michelle, love that. Just so many other ones, Wicked, all those musicals. When I was coming up too, that were pretty popular. producers. I've seen producers in New York. That's amazing. You would love the producers.
Yeah.
That's like definitely something you would like. But yeah, seen so many musicals over the years, but just always loved them.
Yeah. I don't think I knew that about you. I didn't get introduced to musicals until like my freshman year of college. I absolutely hated musicals growing up. They were just like super annoying. And I had my roommate in college, Patrick. Shout out to Patrick. He was like a musical theater major. Mm-hmm. So he'd be singing all of the time. I mean, like literally was waking me up. This is not a joke. Like every day to Legally Blonde the musical. Back in the game, back on the prowl.
That's different though. That's like,
Dude.
That's not like, when I think musicals, I think like the classic, like, you know.
He loves them all, but that was the one that was hot at that moment. And I didn't even know people listen to like soundtracks of musicals, but that's every day. And it was so funny because at the same time, like that was like that, I think it was that Kingdom Come album or something by Jay-Z or American Gangster or something. I think it was American Gangster. And I had a ringtone. And I woke up earlier than him, and it would go off like every morning, like I don't need no hook for this shit. So like he hated that, and I hated Legally Blonde. So it was really interesting.
That's
but
so funny.
Because of that, I started to like appreciate it a little bit more because I went to like his senior musical that they put on. They had a pretty good budget, and it was like Sweeney Todd, and he was like Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
So it was really good, and then I saw a couple more, and then I saw Matilda on Broadway, and I was like, "Wow, that's so good." But they're pretty pricey. But I really enjoy musicals now.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fun fact: who knew?
Yeah, and also it's not necessarily a musical per se, but it's like in that performance theater arena. Cirque du Soleil, I love.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me that.
Seen
You saw him
two
in
of
Vegas
them
or something, right?
Yeah, I saw it in Vegas most recently, and it was phenomenal. And then I saw one long time ago, and I was like maybe. Actually, it was in Chicago, and I was like a freshman at college. It was the first one I ever saw. But yeah, no, I love musicals, man. So many good ones.
So many good ones. Well, now I know we gotta find. They come here too. I discovered like there's a whole like art area down here. I like the ballet and
That's something I've never
musicals
seen live
are
that I would
so
do is the ballet. I definitely want to see that live someday.
Well, I'm going to keep that in mind. But yeah, I'm into stuff like weird stuff like the opera and the ballet, and now musicals. Like, turns out it's actually good.
Yeah.
But so let's get into it, man. We got to get into your upbringing.
Feels interesting to be in the hot seat today.
I know, right? The pressure. Everyone's like, "How do we prepare for this?" Like, you literally know everything we talk about, and yet you're still like unprepared. It's like no one can prepare for this. So yeah, just walk us through like your upbringing, family structure, where you grew up, and how you got to where you are today professionally.
Yeah, grew up in the mean streets of Twinsburg, Ohio. Nah, seriously. Yeah, grew up in a small town. Was born in Ohio. Moved to Twinsburg when I was a little boy.
Oh, you didn't grow up there? I mean, you weren't born there?
I wasn't born there, no.
Oh, where were you born?
Toledo. Toledo,
okay.
Ohio. So a lot of my family's like extended family was from there. So that's where we lived when my parents were, got married and were together.
They're still married and together, by the way.
Yeah. So grew up in a suburb of Ohio or of Cleveland, which was, my brother talked about this on an earlier podcast, but is a very racially and economically diverse community in the bosom of a lot of, I would say, different suburbs. So Cleveland's weird. The outside of Cleveland, like the suburbs of Cleveland, to me are a little weird because like there's definitely like areas where it's like suburb is super duper rich and white, rich and diverse, rich and like black or rich and Asian, and then you go like different suburbs that are just like poor. Or like low income and stuff like that. So it was just a weird area to grow up in because I felt like the town over from my town was like, you know, a poorer town. And then you go one more town over from that, and it's like, you know, trust fund kids that go to like private schools and shit. So it's just an interesting area. And so it was really cool to grow up there. I had a lot of different types of groups of friends growing up. And I think that really kind of informed how I see the world, just like, you know, seeing different families and how they where they came from or what their parents did and worked and to survive, to provide for them. And then, you know, you go over to a friend's house who's like got a nicer house than my house, and it's like, oh shit, this is pretty cool, and he's got video games and stuff and shit like that. So it's just like interesting to grow up in that kind of dynamic of like, you know, poor all the way to like well off you know, families around. So it definitely like was a cool town to grow up in. You got a lot of different perspectives, a lot of sports was a part of my childhood. I always wanted to be an NBA player early on.
Oh, really?
I was obsessed. So I'm a big sports fan, as you know.
Yeah.
Obsessed with the Cavs growing up, any Cleveland sports team growing up. So, but I really wanted to be an NBA player, and so I got into basketball, but wasn't naturally born for the sport or gifted with the abilities, but played basketball for many, many years and other sports too, golf, bowling, football in junior high, although I was just a little runt, never could like get on the field because I was like all the kids were bigger than me.
Yeah. What position did you play in basketball?
In basketball, I was like a point shooting guard-ish.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I was a guard. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So
must have not been a very diverse team.
What do you mean?
They let you run the one or the two?
I didn't play.
Okay.
I mean, early on I played, but no, I wasn't good. I wasn't as good as the other kids, but I was just on the team, and it was, you know, that was the beginning. And then once I discovered that I was not only talented at music, but it was like my passion in life. I think like middle school is kind of really where I like figured that out. And so I hard pivoted away from sports to music. And I remember my junior high years were really hard because it was like I had wanted to be in sports so bad, but I also wanted to do music. And music was like, I was like getting all these opportunities to like start the drum section in the orchestra in my middle school and like do these different things. And it was like pulling me away. But like, I was like holding on to it as a kid. Like you want your dreams are like, I want to play sports, but it's like, I'm not going to play sports. So like, let's just steer into the music thing. And that really like was the thing that led to so much of what my life is now. Cause in high school I was in the show choir. We had this really insane, but like gotta give crazy respect to her choir director in high school who really like taught us more than just music. She taught us life skills. And she taught us how to like survive criticism. It was crazy because we were it was such a cutthroat show choir to be in. And what's funny is our high school wasn't historically like great at sports, like wasn't winning titles and stuff. Like we had like James Posey and Kelly Herndon were like two of this like went on to the NFL and NBA and stuff. And but like those were the only years that like we came close to the state title or whatever. So at least when I was in school. And so but our show choir in high school was like when I was a freshman, we hit 100 grand championships in the history of the show choir.
What's that?
So like when you are in show choir, you compete at these like competitions that are like 18 schools from like different states.
Okay. And
they all come to a school for the weekend. It's like 18 schools perform throughout the Saturday. 6 make the finals at night. And then you perform, if you're in the finals, you perform a second time. And then they award the championships. And so it's just like crazy day. Grand championship. Yeah.
Grand championship.
And so our high school show choir, by the time I was a freshman and like the 20 years or whatever had been around to that point, had won 100 grand championships
all
over the country.
Once a year?
No, we would do there would be 6 ones that we would travel to per year. And then we would do like a couple ones in Ohio. And then we would do like just performances that weren't competitions. So, but the competitions, it was usually about 6 or 7 a year.
Jeez.
And so we would practice 3 times a week, 5 hours a day after school. It was like intense, bro. Like I tell you, like when that show Glee is like based off of this shit. Cause like
I've never seen Glee.
Yeah, it's like the schools that are good. Like there's a bunch of them. But when I was in high school, it was like Mount Zion, Onalaska's in Wisconsin, Mount Zion's in Illinois. There was like John Burroughs Powerhouse in California. Grand Central in Indiana. There were like a bunch of ones that were like well known, and I would say we were like one of those like 10 or 15 schools in the country that people like. It's just appointment viewing for like if you're into this stuff, you know, because we just had that reputation, and we were really known for our dancing more than anything, because our choreographer was like he kind of like for the time was like really innovative for the school stuff. But anyways, so that really taught me a lot. So I like learned audio engineering and mixing live sound like in high school, doing these events and like putting on these shows. Learned how to like, break down a stage and the technical setup of like backdrops and all that. And time management was a big part of that, and learning how to, as a student and a kid, learn how to manage your time, but also get your schoolwork done and handle all of your personal stuff. And then go on the road as a high schooler on the weekends, where you would leave at like 2 a.m. on a Saturday and then not go to bed till like 2 a.m. after the performances were over, and then get up at like 8 a.m. to drive home.
That's why Sunday. Grandpa needs his sleep all of the time now.
Yeah, I did it all when I was in high school.
Right.
So that it was really interesting because it really like taught us a lot. But then the one thing that was like invaluable more than any was we would have to get up in front of like the seniors of the group and the choir director and the choreographer, and like they would literally like you would perform by yourself in front of the whole choir, or you would like a group of you would get up and perform in front of the choir, and then everybody in the room would like pick you apart, like here's all the things you did wrong, and give you like harsh criticism,
right?
And that was crazy. It was like kids would cry and like girls would like lose it and run out the room, and it was insane, and probably a little psychologically too much for kids to go through. But
I wonder if they still allow that. I mean, considering this new PC world we live in,
I would imagine, because I mean, you'd look at like even that show. It's a college kids, but that cheer show on Netflix. It's like about the gymnastics team. They do that kind of stuff. So I imagine it's still going on. But back when I was in it, it was like no holds barred. It literally like, you suck. You got to work on this. Like, do this again. And so that really like helped me deal with criticism and discipline of like getting better at something and learning how to like critique myself like with my own music and stuff eventually. So that was a big part of my
So were you able to then give criticism and feedback to the other kids once you were a senior in the group?
Yeah.
Were you harsh?
I wasn't too harsh. I was more like, I would like make sure they go and do it like one-on-one with somebody out in the hallway until they got it and stuff like that. But there were definitely moments I probably was. I can't remember, but
you're like on someone's list, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But so that was like high school, all that. Still did like some sports, but mainly did that and focused my attention on that. And that led to kind of this, I always wrote poetry, did little like singing groups and rapped and danced and like was in that kind of like, I was known for that growing up. Like that kind of like in my friend groups, and like when we'd go out or like go to a dance party or something, like I would be cutting it up and
from
doing all
show
that.
Choir dances, the choreography from. I honestly don't even really know.
I mean, like in my personal life, we would do like hip hop dance and stuff.
Oh, okay,
I took dance in high school too for a couple of years, so it just was kind of always going on. But yeah, so after high school, went to college, moved to Chicago, and went to Columbia College and studied arts management, arts and music production, and met you after college. Met my wife after college. I'm married. Don't have any kids. My family structure growing up, it was just me, my brother, and my mom and dad. And my upbringing was very good. It was a very good upbringing, and my parents did the best they could to kind of instill certain values in me and my brother. Like, my parents had my mom had a very rough upbringing as a child. Came from poverty and just had like abusive childhood. And then my dad was in this like huge family that didn't really have a lot, but like it was a good family structure. My aunt talked about it on the podcast. Yeah, to like 10 kids in the family, baseball team. But no, like my parents, because of their upbringing, they definitely wanted to make sure that our family was like not like the families that they kind of came from, where it wasn't as close. They wanted to make sure that like we were a tight knit group, and instilled certain work ethic and values in me that are still live to this day. And I think that's something that has allowed me success to whatever extent in my life. Just having a strong mind, and being able to kind of like deal with stuff in a healthy way, I think. But yeah, definitely give props to mom and dad for a childhood. They always provided for us. It was funny because it was talking about like how you grow up with this like diverse community, and I'd have like friends whose mom and dad would get them like the new Jordans came out or the Xbox dropped or whatever. My parents never did any of that shit. They were always like, we're going to the bargain store. You can get a pair of shoes for $50 or you can get two for $25. You choose. And it was like that kind of like blue collar mentality of scarcity, which we talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would always I would spend my time like shopping in the store and get like two pairs.
The two. Yeah.
Cause it's like
options.
Yeah.
I'm going with the options.
I'm going with the options.
Yeah. No, I love that, dude. So, you mentioned college, and one thing I know that you didn't mention, because you went to college, you studied, would you say arts media management?
Yeah, it's an Bachelor of Arts degree, but it was like mainly like arts in the business in the arts. So business management and kind of like accounting and stuff for like, I took some of those classes, and then the other half of my degree was like music production and music stuff.
That's actually worth something. So I didn't, you took accounting class. That makes so much sense, because like we're like going through stuff. This dude is like whizzing through Excel spreadsheets, and I'm like, how the hell does he know Excel, bro?
Well,
he has a BFA.
It's funny because I know you love Donald Trump, but back in the day,
well, how would you say that publicly?
You've already said it like a million times. But back in the day, before he is what he's now, I really liked what was it? The show is called, what's the show? Apprentice.
Yeah.
The very first season.
Okay.
I was obsessed with it.
Okay.
Because I was like, as a kid.
You and like all the other Americans that now hate him.
Yeah. I was a kid, and I was like, at that point in high school, I really wanted to like be a business owner someday.
Love it.
And I remember watching that show and like taking notes, and I would like remember stuff that they did in it. And then I bought this book. I remember it was this thick like business book, like How to Start a Business, or one of those like, books. And I would be in like class with friends, would be like playing cards, and I'd be like over in the corner like reading this book and like writing notes like about starting a business. And so it's funny because I just now thought of that, and that kind of it makes a lot of sense. Like I was into a lot of stuff growing up, with sports and music and all these things, but also had this like passion for knowing how a business works, even at an early age. And so I definitely wanted to do that in college and be able to like learn the business side of music so that I would know it as an artist.
Yeah. Definitely going to need some Excel spreadsheets if you want to be in business. don't care what business you're in. But one thing that you didn't say is the band, right?
Yeah.
So I know about the band, and you've mentioned the band on previous episodes. I think even on the first episode. So just like, how did you get into this like whole band and starting a band and then being a part of a band? And you guys were doing a lot with the band. And also, like, how does that tie into the fact of like what you're doing now and what you actually went to school to do?
So, band, actually shout out to my buddy Nick, who I started the band with. He's getting married next weekend.
Oh, it didn't happen? I thought that was the wedding you were at.
Oh, no, we were at a different wedding in Chicago, but this wedding's in LA, and I'm a groomsman in it, so I'm excited.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
So anyways, so when I moved to Chicago when I was like 17, 18, and moved to city to go to Columbia, I knew right from the jump I wanted to find. I'd never been in a band of my own, and like in high school.
What do you mean by that?
Like I had never had my own like band.
Yeah, but you like played in bands, but they weren't.
Oh yeah, I played in like school band and stuff like
Understood.
that.
Okay.
But I'd never been in my own band, and I remember my buddy, one of my buddies who I was like best friends with in high school. He was in a band, and we would also like do stuff together, and we'd go to his house, and he had a drum set and some music stuff, and we would like rock out. But I never had like a band in high school that I like played shows with, and so I was like, I really want to do that. So I knew from the jump as soon as I got there that I would like be in this school with all these musicians, and I would want to collaborate with people. And I remember back then, Facebook was just getting off the ground a couple years in, and it was at all the colleges, and everybody just friended everybody at their college or that they met at orientation day and stuff. Yes. And I remember I friended my buddy Nick on Facebook, and for like the first semester, he would like post stuff in these groups and stuff, and I would see it, so I recognized his name through Facebook. And then one day I got this like free pass to go to this gym that he worked at. And I walk into the gym and Nick's at the front desk and he's like, "Hey, are you Brandon?" And I was like, "Yeah, are you Nick?" Yeah. And he's like, "I'm trying to get a band together." And I was like, "I'm there,
Just
bro."
Straight up like that?
Yeah, it was so weird. It was like I saw he had posted about it, and then I saw him in person like the next day. And I was like, "Yeah, I'll meet up." So we linked up at the UC, and he introduced me to Barry and Joe, who were was the bass player and our first keyboard player. And the four of us just kind of like got together one night in the dorm and like jammed. And a couple months later go by, and and Nick goes back home and then comes back down, and we're like, let's make this a real like band. And so we got the guys back together. And we needed to find a drummer, and somebody introduced us to our drummer over the phone, and he was interested, and we had never met him, and then he met up with us, and the five of us just like became best friends. And so we did, our band was called Fly Phoenix. We were in a band.
How'd you come up, who came up with the name and how?
It was hard actually to come up with a name. We were like trying to think of names and throwing ones out, one that we almost went with. I don't even remember what it was.
Well, you know the best way to come up with a band name.
What?
You just take the color of jeans you're wearing and the last vegetable you ate. So what's the last vegetable you ate?
Last vegetable.
we can take just the last thing you ate if it's easier. Last thing you ate.
Banana.
Pretzels.
Oh, pretzels. Yeah, pretzels. Yeah.
Blue pretzels.
Blue pretzels.
Denim pretzels.
Denim pretzels. That's funny. But no, we finally came up with somebody threw one word out, and then another person threw another word out, and then we kind of played with them, and it was like we voted on it, and it just kind of worked out at a practice. But
so like I've never formed a band, right? Definitely, obviously make music, as you know. But like you have ideas in your head of like, and you've had your own personal influences and stuff like that. So you gravitate to certain music naturally, and you want to make certain music naturally, and everyone has their own thing. So like when you're coming together to develop that sound, like what does that look like? How do you decide what Fly Phoenix will sound like?
Well, that was what was really weird about the band is like all of us had different but overlapping musical influences, and everybody's like strongest genre was like something different, I would say. And so
you said genre like I feel like Donald Trump would say genre.
And we had this really unique sound. I don't even, it was kind of like a mashup of soul, R&B, hip hop was like the root of it. And then it had like this rock influence, this like jazz influence, this like pop influence. And so it kind of had all these different, elements to it, which was really cool. But it was also hard sometimes to write songs because like, I wrote a lot of the like structure and the bass of the song. Like I would like play chords on a guitar, write the lyrics, and come up with a melody, and then come to the band. And then we would, structure around it, or we would jam as a band, and then I would write some stuff to the jam, and then from the jam we would structure it, and that became a song. It was like different ways we wrote songs, but it was always not a compromise, but always like a trying to work to find what fit the sound the best. Because there were definitely like times where it was like, I want to make the song like more R&B because that was always like what I liked. But then it would be like other people's influences in the thing, and you can't just do what you want to do. You kind of have to like make everybody's voice fit, and from that comes the band's voice. And so it was interesting because we would have these really dynamic discussions, or we would critique each other or whatever, kind of like the high school stuff. But ultimately we just came up with this really unique sound, and it was very organic. Everything was organic about the band, like how we grew as our following, how we got shows. It was always by like word of mouth and playing shows, and then people would hear about us, and then that would lead to some more shows. And it was just, everything about it was organic, from the way we developed the sound to the following to the shows and everything. So it was a really special experience.
No, it sounds very special. So like, I know you personally, and you're a go-getter, bro. Like, about that action.
Appreciate
boss,
that,
as
man.
Marshawn Lynch would say. So like, how often were you guys practicing?
We would practice every Sunday.
Okay, like a few
for
hours,
like
or
a whole day.
Whole day. Oof.
So we would make a trek up to Evanston on the train.
Jeez.
With all our instruments.
Red line.
Yep. Red line to the purple line. The purple line to Ben's parents' like stop.
You're like basically in Wilmette or something.
Yeah. They lived in Evanston, like 5 minutes from like the downtown area of Evanston.
Okay.
But they had this like house that their family lived in, that Ben grew up in, and in his basement was like his recording studio. Like he had his full drum set up and his computer and stuff. And so his parents were just always cool and like supportive of our band, and like would let us just rock out on Sundays in their basement.
They didn't have a place at the school where you can practice?
We did that too. So but you couldn't always get a room there. And at a certain point we weren't in college anymore, so we couldn't just rely on us being students to like book the space. We had to like try to get somebody who was like playing a show with us that still was a student or whatever. Like, so we really just used Ben's parents' house a lot. And then as we got older and further into it, we would need to like book recording spaces, like rehearsal spaces to do it, because we weren't in school anymore. But we also just like couldn't do that trek all the time as like adults. Yeah, it was a lot. So, but having that was huge. And we bonded from that experience. Like we would ride the train together, or we would meet up at the stop and then come back from practice together, like with all our shit and chopping it up, doing like guy stuff, like just like, roasting each other, getting some food, like, and it would just be a whole day. We make a whole day out of it. And it was really, really fun. And our chemistry just like grew, and we became really close friends from that.
That's interesting. So like, I'm just thinking about this, 'cause like, obviously, been recording for a long time now. And it's just me against me, right? It's just like, okay, beat's going, I'm getting it, or I'm not getting it. With the band, it's 5 different people in your case, 5 different people all coming together. This guy's messing up right now, so now we have to do this takeover again. Like, what's that like? I'm assuming you were the leader as the lead singer.
Yeah, I mean, we generally, like, Nick and I would kind of like share responsibilities because we formed the band, and I think we were kind of the most kind of like apt to deal with the administrative goings on. Right. So like he would deal with a lot of he would make a lot of the graphics in the early days, and he would like do a lot of the talking to other artists and booking, finding shows for us and stuff. Nice. And I would do a lot of like the songwriting and the organizing and the money side of it, and then also help out with the like coordinating bookings and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we did a really good job just splitting responsibilities throughout the band. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different experience. I'm a solo artist now, and that's how I met you and worked with you. And they have their advantages to each side. Like as a solo artist, you know, you get to shape the sound the way you want it. It's your voice. It's your thing. You can sometimes move quicker with stuff. But with the band, it's like then you always have people you can play a show with. You always like have this like camaraderie in this group. They make you better, you make them better. So there's like that give and take. So it's like there's pros and cons to both in terms of like if you're an artist trying to figure out what you want to do, but ultimately go with whatever speaks to you and your.
Well, I'm just
soul.
Curious to know, like. I'm assuming, you know, you're making music with people for years. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have riffs. You're gonna have things that go on, whether it's about the music or some personal thing that's outside of the music or whatever. Like, you know, how do you approach those situations, given that you still have to go and you don't want to break up the band, but you're like. Dude,
I mean, it was like brothers. Okay. So it was a lot of like, sometimes we get into a fight and an argument, and sometimes it'd be like really lovingly like tell somebody, hey, you need to do this better, like you need to practice on this thing. So it was like being in a band with brothers. Okay. You know, just like honest, raw, and real, but people, you know, at the end of the day, everybody loves each other.
Yeah, well, that's really good. I don't know. I just get so frustrated even just like.
Well, I mean, there was definitely a lot of times where it wasn't all love, and we would have to like mediate between two of the band members or something. But I think because we had developed this really good friendship, it allowed us to like last so long. We did have like band. We had our first keyboard player leave the band, and then we had a new keyboard player come in who was with us for the second half of the band. Our drummer eventually left like 6 years-ish in, and then we had to replace him for the last year. So there definitely was some like at the end of it, there was some relationships that kind of like fell out, but since have like mended.
That's good. That's good.
But yeah,
because that's got to be weird, like being the new guy coming into a band that's already established.
Yeah,
everyone knows each other.
Yeah,
like oh man, that sounds terrible.
We at the end of the band, like the last kind of time we knew we were going to perform together, like we kind of got together and decided to call it, and I think it was everybody on the same page at that point. We had gone through very like a couple very specific runs where we built ourselves up and then like got to this point to like try to take it to the next level, and then kind of didn't get there, and then we work on it, replace somebody in the band, and then build it up, got to another spot, and then the same thing. So it was like these different stages, and I think the last time that we went through a stage, it was like everybody was just kind of like burnt out from doing it and was ready for something new, whether it was like a new music project or just like to go like do something else.
So what was like the ultimate goal of the band, would you say?
I mean, be rock stars, man. Just
so like sign major or?
Yeah, I think we it's interesting to think back because we never really had the goal of getting signed, but we were like, if we got signed, it'd be great. Our thing was we always were just trying to grow the band and get bigger shows. Like that was always the goal, was like we were trying to get like bigger and bigger shows so that we could grow our following more and more and more. And thinking back, that's I feel like we were kind of ahead of something, because now that's very much the methodology. I feel like use social media, use the internet, grow your following. Don't go down the major label route, or just build up big enough clout and the following, and then you sign a deal where they give you like what you want. Yeah. And so, but we were kind of, I think, like ahead of that, because back when we were coming up, labels were still kind of the way to go about it, to get big and famous and stuff. And we kind of, all of us to some extent, some more than others, were all kind of like establishment, anti-authoritarian types, very like rebellious to some degree in some ways of our lives. And so I feel like we kind of always stuck to this method of like trying to just grow the band organically. And for better or worse, I mean, I look back and I have no regrets on how we did that. We didn't ultimately blow up and become this huge like rock star band, but we did what we were supposed to do in it. And it was ours, and it was authentic, and it was organic, and it was everything that I could have ever hoped for it and dreamed for it to be. So I really like look back at those years with the guys, like some of the best times in my life. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, definitely, man. You guys were definitely jamming. Got to check out a few shows for sure. Good stuff. Really great performer. If you ever get a chance to see Rizzo perform, and there's tickets.
Very rare nowadays. I have not been doing it.
Listen, you never know what may happen in this lifetime. Yeah. I would say get your tickets the moment you see it. Just grab them. Just go check it out. Just go check it out. Go see what's up. See what it's hitting for, bro. It's different. It's a whole different. I feel like that's like your natural element. Yeah. And it makes sense now, because you literally went through the fire in high school, being critiqued, that now you're just out there like balls drop, like, yeah, look at me, look at me, look at me. That's literally how he is on stage, like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I like that. It's like you exude confidence. But so you studied this business, art, media, management, and now you're kind of still in that realm, but like, let's talk about, like, you had to, at some point, the band's over, and now you're making a transition. It's a tough one. Like, how do you, like, you had to make that transition as a child, but you knew you didn't have the skills to be an NBA. Right. But this one's a little bit different, because you're like, I have the skills to be major and be popping, but I'm not. So what am I going to do? How do you...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I always, because of how I was raised, the values that I have and stuff, I never wanted to not be able to provide for myself, or like be able to put a roof over my head and like have what I need. And I never wanted to be like rely on anybody either. I wanted to be self-sufficient. And so growing up with that mindset, I was like, I always know that, like, regardless of how much effort and energy I put into music to be my career, I'm going to have to like do something to pay the bills. 'Cause, as much as we love our dreams and our passions, sometimes they don't pay the bills, and you gotta do something else. So I always had this like work ethic to like carry a job and like build for myself. But at the same time, I was always interested in business. I was always drawn to that aspect of my life, that interest in my life. And my goal was always to be some sort of entrepreneur, whether it was music or be able to like manage a business or whatever. And so I've always had that interest. And so the other side of my career, separate from the music stuff, has been in management and business. And so I, out of college, I worked in retail and kind of like went through the motions in there, and then had the chance to start.
It's like the worst, right? Like to get out of college and then work retail. Yeah. So you said something, and I want to let you finish what you're saying. But you said something that just made me think of something, because there's all these like success stories, people that are successful, famous or whatever, and they'll say, like, there's one that Will Smith said, he talked about not having a plan B, because a plan B basically deters you from plan A. And it's like, if you want to do something, then you just need to focus on that. And there's going to be all types of circumstances that arise, but you overcome them because, faith and all of that good stuff, it's going to happen. And I think about like so many other artists, The Weeknd and all these other people that were like homeless, like really doing extremely bad, like couch surfing, like so many artists.
Yeah.
And then they make it at some point. So it's like, do you think that that's what you have to do? Like or you have someone that supports you, right? You can go the Suge Knight Tupac route. Or you can just like be a real starving artist and hopefully you're good enough and you get that look and you're just around all of the time that eventually some exec is like, give him $40,000, we'll sign him and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then you juxtapose that with what you said, which is, I always wanted to be self-reliant. And do you think if you made that compromise that potentially you'd be in a different position where you wouldn't be on a plan B?
Maybe. It's possible, but I don't necessarily look at what I've done so far as a failure, because it's always just a learning experience. And so, but there's just for as many stories like The Weeknd and all these, there's just as many stories of people who were like,
who are just like still hungry on the streets right now.
That were like me, who carried a job and then their single took off, or they like whatever. And so there's so many of those stories that don't get heard because it's not the sexy story.
That's true.
It's so much more sexy to hear, I came from nothing, I came from whatever, and like this horrible life to now I'm a star.
That's true.
And that's what people want to hear when they think of from rags to riches type of story. But for every one of those, there's a bunch that, went through their own hardships and learnings and along the way, and maybe they weren't as dramatic, but they did it a different route.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something to be said for that. And I always tried to live my life not saying what if or regretting the choices I made. And I can't say that I did anything wrong, because it was like, I gotta still somehow pay my bills, so I'm gonna get a fucking job and I'm gonna do it.
The key is, if you're homeless, you won't have any bills.
Yeah, it's true. But then there's much other different things you have to deal with.
Homeless looks crazy, bro. It doesn't look appealing to me.
Yeah.
But people do it. It's insane. But no, I think you brought up a really good, interesting point, which is, like people totally worked at, McDonald's or something, or Kmart, and was still grinding and found those opportunities. Yeah. Because retail,
or they find a way to like make money off of something, doing something. Like Kanye, he was making beats. And selling those beats. So he was in essence like doing the thing that he loved, but at the same time, it like, you saw the documentary, like he's like, this is work. He didn't want to do beats for people his whole life,
right.
Like he wanted to eventually be the artist.
Right.
And so he did what he needed to do to make money and keep himself sustained so that he could get to that point.
Right.
And I think I kind of thought of it the same way. It's just that I wasn't making beats to pay my rent, but I was doing what
Funny enough, I don't know how true it is, but Phil, who, was actually in that documentary too, but he told me that Kanye was about to quit and actually get his real estate license. That he was done, nothing was shaking, nothing was happening, and he was about to get his real estate license, and then like decided to move to New York and just try one more time.
He would have been a uber successful real estate
mogul.
So? You think so? Either way,
yeah.
That's how he's built,
That's interesting. That's really interesting to think about. Like, I don't know. I have no idea, but yeah, he is just like what he touches is great. But does he have the right people skills to be in real estate? Like, I don't know. I don't know him personally. People love him that know him.
Yeah.
That's what they say. But, I mean, he's
I don't know.
a different type of guy. A lot of crazy stuff. So, I mean, we'll take this time to segue into the allegedly question. Allegedly.
It's got to be a different one this time. You got a different
of course.
one.
So done with that, man.
We did the other one.
Old news, and no one knows, bro. I have so many.
Okay.
There's so many good ones that's going on in the world right now, but we'll dig into yay. So, allegedly, Hollywood is a really strange place, filled with pornography and pedophilia, and no one cares. People are getting paid. Allegedly, Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, wants his children to not be a part of the Hollywood cesspool, and his now divorced wife wants them to be a part of it. And they're debating about which schools they should go to. He has his own school, Donda Academy. He wants them to go there. She wants them to go to Sierra Canyon or whatever. Who's right, bro? Who's right? Who's wrong? Maybe Hollywood's a really nice place. I don't know. You lived there for some time.
Yeah.
Did you see any pornography and pedophilia going on?
It's definitely a place. It's definitely a wild place, for sure.
Wild place? What does that mean?
It's just a crazy place, man.
If you've ever been, it's different. It's a different place, bro. West Hollywood.
Yeah, well, Hollywood, the Hollywood Walk is not like it's like Times Square.
Right.
It's like where the tourists go who don't know anything about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what Hollywood are you referring to? Are you referring to like the actual district?
Sorry. Yeah. I was talking about I was thinking Hollywood, the area, but Hollywood, the thing. Yeah. No, for sure. That is also a whole other exploration to go down.
Yeah. I got time.
So what's the question though?
Well, the question I just want to know is who's right? Like what should they do? I mean, is Hollywood an issue? Should the children be going to Kanye school? Is that just like a egotistical thing where he wants his kids to go to school? Or do you feel that it's really detrimental to their development if they grow up in the Hollywood cesspool?
Well, I can't say that I know how to raise children because I've never done it. But I would imagine if I was a parent going through that situation, I would likely not want my kids to be a part of the Hollywood thing. And so my question for you would be is because I've been watching the Twitter and all this stuff going on with this whole thing, and it's pretty wild.
I love Kanye, man.
But do you think she's trying to get them to go to Hollywood to be in the circle, like people they know and things like that? Or is it like more sinister than that? Because I feel like, is she just trying to have it where they're near her family and like growing up with sister's kids and all that? Or is it, do you think she wants them to actually be there for?
I think that they are billionaires, and if they want to jump on a helicopter to a private jet to a private runway that leads right to their home, they could do that and be anywhere in seconds. From the tweets, it seems to be more like he was going directly at Kris Jenner. And Kris Jenner, I guess, is the mastermind. She's all of their business manager. And he said that he, quote, does not want his daughters, Chicago and North, to be posing for Playboy and selling porn like Kris did to her kids.
That's deep.
Super deep.
Shots
it makes
fired.
it public shots fired. Like this man is on another level right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I'm just an outsider looking in. I could see some validity to what he's saying, because when I look at a lot of the other kids that have grown up in that Hollywood, they kind of turn out pretty strange. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going on. I'm not a part of that elite group.
Well, I think it's also a portion of it is coming from such a like well-off, famous in the public eye family. So kids growing up in that, like that's not a normal life.
No.
That's not like what you and I went through. And even if you didn't go through like a nice light upbringing and you went through a tough upbringing, you're probably not going through the type of things that they're going through. So it's completely different than what anybody is normally experiencing. So I think that there's something to be said for that. And we talked about this, I think, on an earlier podcast. I think this is partly why leaders and like kings and stuff like that in the back in the day, why their children always end up so crazy is because if you grow up like these people are at your beck and call, you can tell them to do anything, and there's no one checking your behavior, that's going to lead to psychopathy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think similar things probably happen where it's like you grow up in you have a famous dad who's like known for doing such great things, or a famous mom who's known for doing such great things, and you're constantly like, I got to live up to that. There's that whole mentality in there. There's like the money aspect. There's the
money aspect, because I take it a step further, because it's like when you think about it, a normal girl from Kansas City or some small town in Kansas or whatever, and she moves to LA and wants to be a part of the big life, and someone says, okay, yeah, get in the pool, I'm going to take pictures of you, you can be a Playboy. She's not even going to be compensated for that. She's going to get exploitation, she's going to get promo, is how they're going to position it to her.
Right.
But I mean, they already go, as soon as these kids walk out the door, they're taking pictures to sell to TMZ, to sell to whomever. So, I think he's on to something, because he obviously knows this world and he successfully navigated it for 20 years and is a billionaire. I think he knows that people are in the corners trying to be like, hey, I want X, whatever type of images, whatever I want from your children. And there's maybe people in that corner that are willing to broker the deal, and seems to be Chris. So allegedly.
I mean, I'm all for him being able to have a say. Like, I think he should have a say, and I know if it were me and I were in his shoes, I wouldn't want my kids to grow up in that environment either. So it makes sense. Outside looking in, I get it.
Totally get it. I mean, there is no Kanye curse, but there is a Kardashian curse. So, allegedly. So, shifting back though, you're talking about that transition into the business life, and I kind of wanted to get more into like that. You were saying you wanted to be sustained, but I wanted to get more into like that emotional aspect of it, of essentially walking away from a dream to sustain yourself, right? Walk us through that. Like, how do you even come to do such a thing?
Yeah, I think what I wanted in life shifted. So I don't think that I ever really thought about pursuing music the way that I think about it now back in the time I was growing up.
Can you elaborate?
So as I've gotten older, obviously, like I've educated myself, I've evolved, I've grown as a human, as a man, whatever. So I know things now that I probably didn't know back then, and that's why I think the way I think. And I think what you value and what you find meaning from may change, but if that's what's driving you, that may change the path, if that makes sense. So I think maybe when I was younger, the part of the reason why I was pursuing music was because I wanted the notoriety for being in music, or like music, and really what motivated me the most back then was I just loved to perform live. And so the shows is what the drug. Like, and I know that the moment that I felt that was I was in 8th grade. I was performing in this choir group, and I was on stage in front of all these people, and we were performing. I was in a gospel choir, and we were performing "I Need You to Survive" by Hezekiah Walker, and I had this like rush of like emotions, like just like overcome with like all these different emotions at the same time, and it was like a almost like a psychedelic experience or like a transcendent experience performing. And I was so young I couldn't really like quantify it, but I was like, this means something, and like that stuck with me throughout my life. And I was like,
was it a solo piece?
No, it was in a choir.
You were in a choir, okay.
Yeah. And I was like, this is really a meaningful moment in my life, and it always was part of the reason why I knew that I would like should pursue music. And so that like drug of being on stage and like the energy and the transcendent experience is what I always sought in it. And then as I started a band and was doing shows and going through that, then it became about how do I make this a career and pursue it so that we get famous to a point where this can be the business that I use to make money, rather than like I'm pursuing the passion and the transcendent experience. You know, it's fucked up because it's just kind of how our society is formulated, so that you have to make money to go on and do something. And so a lot of people don't end up making enough money off of their passion or their dream, and they have to do something else because it's just not like, I'm not going to fucking be homeless. That's just not built into my code. So, so I think that change in perspective as I got older, having put all my energy into it to get to a certain point, and then having to kind of like come to the grips with like, now I'm getting married. Now I'm going to like need to provide for somebody else and like help, do that. And who knows what's next. So, those kind of thoughts came in. And so I just, more so than like saying I am leaving my dream, it was more like a shift of what's valuable to me and what I want to pursue the rest of my life or the next period of my life. And at the moment, I was pretty burnt out from like trying to make my passion a business, and was not in a healthy mental space. And I also had other interests, like I've always been interested in doing many things. And I think it's to my detriment sometimes because I like that Gemini mentality of like wanting to do so much stuff. And I had the opportunity to start this business with some friends. Like my friends were about to start this restaurant concept. They wanted me to be their GM. And so I saw that as like, okay, this is a sign that I need to like try the other thing that I was talking about as a kid, being interested in business. This is my opportunity to like really see where this goes. And so I threw my energy into that and kind of let music kind of become less of a, like, this is what I'm pursuing for my career, and more of it's what makes me happy. And I'm going to go back to writing music because it's like my outlet, my passion, my thing. And so I shifted into that. And then that took me down this new career path, which I'm now my current job I've been in for a couple of years, where I manage businesses in real estate. And it's been a really valuable part of my journey, because it's like taught me a lot about business and being able to manage people and do all these other things. So I think ultimately this is all leading somewhere.
Love that.
These different paths that I've like carved for myself, and where they go from here, I don't know, but I always approach life with a certain amount of wonder and curiosity, and I'm a learner. And like, that's just, I feel like that's the way I need to proceed through life, and in that manner. and take the opportunities as they come to learn and do other things. And so much so that we're on this journey, you know, and it led me back to the creative path again, where these paths have overlapped, and we're doing the podcast and some new music stuff. And, you know, so who knows where it goes from here?
Who knows? And so, I mean,
the Most High.
The Most High definitely knows. So it sounds to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like, opposed to you trying to steer things into where you want them to be, you're allowing it to kind of just move you.
Yeah.
But you still have an idea of like where you want to be headed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Awesome.
That's
man.
a great way to put it. I didn't
that's-
really think of it that way, but that is exactly how I think about it.
Yeah. Because it's like, I mean, I think we all went through that, where you're just like, I need this to happen. I need this to happen. And God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is like, no, I'm actually pushing you here because you be better at this than that, right?
Yeah.
You could help someone else, but it
The other
may not
thing
be what you
too
want.
is I never look at something like it's. Sometimes things are like I'm shutting the book. It's completely.
You're
over.
not going to the NBA,
Right.
yeah.
Like but there are a lot of things where I leave it open.
Yes.
Because I may come back to this. I may do this again. And with music being the primary thing I was pursuing, it wasn't that I walked away from it for good. It's like, I'm always going to do music.
Right.
But do I want me doing music to be the thing that I like hate? Or do I want to get back to it being the thing that gives me meaning?
So is it more so like I'm doing music for therapy, not necessarily to release it for commercial success?
Yeah, in a way. Mm-hmm.
Okay. In a way, what do you mean?
Because not necessarily that because I do want people to hear it.
Like,
you know, I'm going to put it out.
Pay for it too?
But
or?
I'm not measuring myself by whether or not I become famous from this.
Love that.
And like, I think I got caught up in this, like wanting to grow my following so that I could go down that road. And it ultimately burnt me out to the point where writer's block, I was getting resentful towards certain things and certain people. And like, that's just not a healthy place to be. And it's time to change things up when you get to that. And I'm very cognizant of that. And I think I've just gotten even better now, kind of reinvesting in my own learning about whether it's like, you know, the stuff we talk about on the show is very important to me, you know, learning about history, learning about spirituality, learning about this and that. And, just the more information and knowledge I've gathered has helped me make better decisions and just improve that decision-making process, I think.
Yeah, and so you kind of led me right where I wanted to go, which is, you know, that requires a lot of introspection. Everything you just said, like, clearly requires a lot of self-work, inner work, really having an internal conversation with yourself and looking yourself and saying, I am being resentful right now, right? Because it's not easy to see that when it's happening, and you have to step back and view yourself objectively, and that will ultimately definitely take you down either a dark spiritual path or a more enlightening spiritual path. And obviously you have a glow, so you went the right way. But what, you know, was that like, you know, that spiritual path? And it's something I know we've talked about offline, which is, are people called onto that path of spirituality, or do they find that path, or was it already like, you know, predestined for them to be that spiritual person? What would you say?
So are we talking about the concept of free will, or are we talking about just making, are we talking about whether or not someone is their own agent in deciding that, or?
Yeah, in a sense, yes.
Okay. I think I thought a lot about the free will versus the determinist versus the free will debate, and I've thought a lot about it, and I think I've settled on a more compatibilist view.
Okay.
So
elucidate, please.
So I think that, like, the brain, mechanistically speaking, they've done studies and stuff where it shows that there isn't really like free will. Like the brain is, because of the inputs, is choosing something unconsciously. We're choosing something based on the things that preceded it and made inputs that came before that. But I think at scale, and I've talked about this before, at scale, you can't fully extrapolate that without it breaking down or chaos emerging, and then the computations kind of break down. So I think there's a blend of both. And I think that to a certain extent we don't have free will because there are things that are informing and cause and effect is in making the choice for us in some ways. But as a human having an experience in this body, you can interact with it. And I think that's where the free will comes in.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily have true free will in the way that you're making the choices to do this thing.
Sure.
But you can choose to you can decide how you want to interact with the interplay that's going on around you.
So that just made me think about, I remember I was 19 years old and I just got my first apartment and I'm pumped, and I was going to the grocery store, and I go into the grocery store and I'm like, I need some bread. And there was this bread that I liked. And I go down this aisle looking for this bread. And there was like a whole aisle dedicated to bread. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Why is there this much bread here? Like, this is insane. There's so much bread. Long story short, I got so flustered, I just left. I didn't buy any
Paralysis by analysis.
Bro, yes. I was definitely overwhelmed.
That's how I am when I go into Netflix.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I do. I go in there for a scroll, and I get out. I'm like, I end up watching nothing. But I just remember that because it was just like such a pivotal moment in my life. But it's like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, I had free will to choose one of the breads that was there, but someone else already decided which breads would be in that aisle to begin with. Mm-hmm. So I'm choosing from what was already chosen for me.
Right.
So I just want to know, though, like, on this path, do you feel like there are people who are chosen? Or is it, because I talk to people and some people are completely not spiritual at all. Like they don't believe in anything. They're not connected to anything. And, you know, certain books that you read, the Book of Life, Bible, whatever, kind of says that some people are just chosen and some people are not chosen. So do you agree with that or disagree?
Yeah, I would agree with that to a certain extent, because I think that there's whatever this soul or thing that is imprinted in each being is, there are certain ones that for whatever reason, that is just the thing they're going to do. And I think of like the people that influence culture and, you know, the great people from history or whatever. And even like the people that I looked up to as a music artist, right? Like Prince is one of my biggest musical influences. He was chosen to be that person. Like that is who he was going to be. End of story. Like there was no anything else that was going to change it. The circumstances lined up so that could happen. And I do think to some extent, some people are just given a certain, whether you want to call it a gift or just have something that is going to come out in that manner, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking, like, I like to believe that everyone has something, but not everyone is paying attention to what God gave them because they may be focused on, I want to be in the NBA or I want to be whatever, right? Where
thanks for shitting on my dreams. But not going to be in the NBA, guys.
No, he's not going to be in the NBA. But a lot of people want to be in the NBA, right? And that's cool to want to be in the NBA, right? But we're just using that as an example, right? But most people are never going to be in the NBA. Like there's like 450 slots at any given moment, right? So, and there's like 9 billion people. Yeah. So it's probably not going to happen. But I feel that a lot of people don't necessarily fulfill their destiny or their goals, or not their goals, but the goals that was maybe predestined for them, if such a thing exists, is because they're going against what was naturally for them. Because I don't know, it seems like you embody it, you put in the work, obviously, and then the spirit or whatever does the rest for you. Like you mentioned Prince, right? Like Prince was going to be Prince no matter what, but Prince obviously had to show up and practice like crazy and do all of these things, and then other things manifested for him where it just happened, and he's Prince, and everybody knows Prince. And we're even schooling the young kids on Prince because they act like they didn't know Prince, so we gotta make sure they know. But so I just wanted to figure out whether or not you feel that like there are people who are chosen for this path, and there are people who are not chosen.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Yes, people are chosen, and people are not chosen. Yeah, I would. I think so too. I think so too. Like, but I do believe everyone has a talent. Everyone has a gift that they can contribute to society, but they don't necessarily pay attention to it because maybe you're not supposed to be in the NBA. Maybe you're supposed to be like the best physical therapist in the NBA, right? Or something like that. But you want to do this, and it is what it is. And there's going to be turmoil. There's going to be friction always. And it's finding that balance between when am I supposed to stop pursuing this, right? And give in. But then am I giving up when I do that? And so you made that transition as well in music.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, how do you know when you're giving in to just like, hey, this isn't happening the way I thought it was going to happen versus giving up?
Yeah. I think so. After the band, I started doing my solo thing, and I've been doing my solo thing ever since. And I think there are times when the music is calling me and speaking to me, and I must put it out. And then there are times where it's not speaking through me in the same way. And I just, the muse, there's like the idea, like Stephen Pressfield, do the work. There's that idea of like, the muse is we give it too much respect, and you have to like do the work in order for it to come through you. Like you have to just keep doing stuff in order for it to come. And to some extent, I think that's true. But also, I always wanted my art and my work to have value, and I felt like there are times like if I'm not feeling, it's not authentic to me, and it's not feeling like valuable to me, then I'm not going to just put something out to put something out. Like, I don't know, maybe I respect it too much, the muse, but
even aside from necessarily releasing it, but how about just like creating it?
Oh yeah. So I'll create it,
okay.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that like, I feel that it's valuable enough to, try to do something with it.
Okay. And so that's interesting because when I think about value, like we may place value on things and society doesn't agree. Binky. He'd go in the trash in my house.
It's Bubba.
Oh, Bubba. Sorry. I thought his name was Binky. I'm sorry. Sorry, buddy. Sorry. Bubba, right? No value to me, has great sentimental value to you. You'd be, I'm sure, pissed if your dog ate it up or something like that, right? Would mean absolutely nothing to me, right? So it's interesting that you mentioned like value, where generally society gives things value. So do you have the right to not put this music out because maybe society finds it value and you're saying it's not valuable?
That's true, but I think the authenticity of it, like let's put it this way. Let's say I made a honky-tonk country song.
Mm-hmm. Probably be hard too.
That's not authentic to me. So like I'm not gonna like put that out, and let's say it blows up and becomes this thing, then I gotta be a country artist. I'm authentically not a country artist. So
I mean, do you? I mean, we look at that Lil Nas X came out with that one slammer and then it was huge. And then he pivoted and went to something completely
different. No, I get
different.
that. And you could do that too. But I'm just saying, like, the making of the thing is not necessarily authentic to me. If I'm just like making it to make something. You know what I mean?
No, I don't. Because I'm thinking like even your example of the honky tonk, like, bro, you could potentially make a straight up honky tonk slammer.
Yeah. No.
Right? Just because like,
hey, maybe you're convincing me otherwise, but I don't know. I feel like I guess the question of how do you decide whether to walk away from it versus just quit, I think, and that's kind of what I was saying, is like I don't necessarily quit or walk away from something that's like if I'm ending something, that's like I broke up with somebody, I'm ending this relationship and we're never going to be again. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's different than like I'm taking a new path to pursue something else I'm interested in, but this path I could come back to it. I could revisit this. And yeah, maybe that is a song that I wrote that like I thought was shit. And then I revisit it and it's good. And then I put it out.
Yeah,
that could happen.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, dude, I'm telling you, like I need like all the rights to your song. So you ever pass away, like I'm just going to go through the hard drive and just get cashed out, bro. They're like, wait, that was sitting in this hard drive this whole time? Like, yeah, bro.
No, I mean, the stuff that you're talking about, that we are going to put out.
No, I'm talking about all your music, bro. I'm talking about all of it, bro. He's got some slammers in there that he's just like, no, I can't put that out. It's not better. And it's like, bro,
that was the old me.
That's
what I'm saying. That person was that's part of the learning of where I've become now. I'll admit that I didn't always make the right decisions or like approach something the right way, and that's probably to my detriment to some extent. But I'm recognizing and learning from that and trying to always grow. And so just proceeding through life with that perspective of I'm always learning and I'm always approaching things with a discovery kind of curiosity about the world. That's the most important thing to me, because I think the wonder is what life's all about. When you're doing work and pursuing this meaningful work, it's like the wonder and the curiosity, I think, is what gives it so much. It's so important to me, and I know to a lot of people too. But that's kind of just how I think about it.
Yeah. One thing you just said there that was interesting to me when you're talking about that give up versus giving in thing or quitting is how you phrase it. And you said, but I know I'm foregoing that for now to walk down this path, but I can always go to that path. And I had like a visual like image in my mind of just like that proverbial fork in the road. And it's just like, there's this path, there's this path, and it's like, But can you walk back to that path?
Everything you need is right where you are.
I love that. That's a fact. But then it brought me back to something that, we've talked about extensively, which is we talked about many paths leading to one source versus one path leading to the source. And, I find this conversation fascinating, and I got time today because you're in the spotlight.
Let's do it.
So definitely want to get your perspective. So just for people that obviously don't hang out with us behind the scenes, so they don't know. But basically, the conversation is, if there's one source, God, whatever it is. Are there multiple paths to God, or is there one specific path to God, which Jesus and Christianity advocates that there's one path to God, and that path is through Jesus? And there are people who say, no, there's, Jesus is a prophet. He's a teacher. There's several teachers, and you can go there and it will still lead you to the ultimate source. So, just give us your perspective and why.
We'll see if I can articulate it.
Okay. I love that.
So the way I think about it, the way I've thought about it for a long time, it's funny because we were talking about college and the formative years in the beginning. And when I got to college, I was like, I had to write this essay. And what I chose to do my essay on was my idea. I had this idea at that point in my spiritual journey that all religions and spiritual systems were essentially the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I had this idea, and I really didn't know how to articulate. So I did all this research, and I looked into the many of the world's great religions, and what this thing is versus what this thing is. And there were just so many metaphors and similarities that overlap. And so I kind of came up with this theory that they're all the same thing. It all came from the same thing, and it just was different interpretations or symbols through different experiences of way people view God. And so when you're talking about the many paths versus one path, I would say, I think we got this argument, basically, or not an argument, but this discussion with me, him, and Cody about this. And I think I was failing to articulate it in a way that made sense. So I guess what I would say is there's one path to God, and that path is defined in a lot of spiritual texts. And I think back to my earlier thing is what I'm now realizing and understanding is that my theory is pretty correct, because what I think is there are spiritual leaders and the people who are chosen, as you were talking about. I think that that's true. And I think that most of what we read in these spiritual texts and whatever, it's all symbols. And it's all ways of conveying the ineffable through some way of humans making sense of it. And you can't really fully make sense of it because it's so much greater than anything we can understand. But there are these spiritual figures, and I think that they are not necessarily real people, but they are, and some of them are, but they are
symbols, like you're saying.
Symbols.
Yeah.
And those spiritual leaders are the many. The way I phrase it is many masters, one path.
Okay, so for clarity, those masters are symbolically all on the same path. Yes. So if you go through any of them, it'll lead you to the same path.
Yes.
Okay. Love that.
So, and another thing I want to say is, I think that the God or the all or the source or whatever, it is creating many manifestations of itself, and the many manifestations have a constant interplay of many manifestations one. And so try to explain this in a way that makes sense.
We got a few more minutes.
And if you look at here's a good representation of what I'm trying to say, like a kaleidoscope, those things you used to look at when you were a kid through this,
for sure.
right? Like that's the many manifestations, and then you take it off, and it's one. Many manifestations, one. So that is.
So are those many manifestations essentially an illusion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still just the one, and the other ones can seem like it's the one, but they're not.
No. So I thought you were saying, is this an illusion?
No, I was going to. Yeah, well, I was
yes, I think
allegorically saying that.
I think that in some regards, the reality we live in is an illusion.
Okay. So what's the real world?
Gotta take the veil off, Mm-hmm. And I think that's
drop a tab.
That's taking psychedelic drugs, or it's what basically these spiritual teachings are conveying through teachings and wisdom and whatnot, and that's another way to experience the reality that lies beyond what we see. Yeah, there's we could talk about this forever because I feel like there's more ways to explain it, but I think at the end of the day, well, we get back to the conversation that we had. I feel like Jesus, Krishna, Arjuna, that whole thing in the Bhagavad Gita, Buddha, all of them,
you put them there too.
They're very much the same symbol for this thing that is the path to God.
Okay.
And I think people misunderstand too. The Bhagavad Gita is not necessarily exclusively Hindu, because it came before. It is the oldest, right? The oldest written spiritual text that we know of.
Was it written in Sanskrit?
Yeah. But really what it says in that book is there's one God. But we think of these polytheistic religions Hinduism and stuff as having many gods.
Well, I think Akhenaten changed that whole thing in, what was that, what dynasty, 25th dynasty or something like that, when he decided that it was just going to be one God and not multiple gods. But, one thing that we've talked about, and you said it here, and it made me think about something that, Cody's not here. And obviously, on this show, we don't want to, argue with people. We want them to say what they say. And you mentioned about religions, how many of the religions overlap and kind of say some of the same stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'd be remiss if I didn't have this little insert to push back a little bit for Cody, which is, the Council of Nicaea, I think in 325 AD or something like that, where basically that's what they did. They took all of the religions and just kind of put them together and then said, this is kind of the new religion. And I'm totally paraphrasing what actually happened there. But so people's argument is that's true today, but before 325 AD, that was not the case. There were multiple religions, and that was the whole purpose of Jesus Christ coming, was to show that he is the truth. He is the way, not the other people that you've seen before him. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'm not exclusively a Christian, or I'm not a Christian, and I'm not a Christian. I don't subscribe to that doctrine. What I would say is there's those who choose to read the Bible, and I'll just use the Bible.
Okay.
There are those in those religions that choose to read the Bible literally. Mm-hmm. And for me, the Bible Bhagavad Gita, whatever. They are interpretations of infinite symbols that we use to describe things, and I don't think they're meant to be read literally. They are conveying something in a way that speaks to something deeper than our rational minds.
Love that. And
I think people who follow the doctrines or the religion itself, some follow a literal translation, or the literal word of God is this thing that's written down. And so I just don't view it that way. I don't subscribe to the doctrine of organized religion per se, but I think these spiritual texts can show you things, and I think a lot of what they all say overlap and are saying same things. So I'll give an example. So in the Bhagavad Gita, or in Hinduism too, there's like demigods, right? And some people would say those are like the gods that people are worshiping, and they may be worshiping those things for the thing that they are the god over. But I really think what those demigods is they're symbols for something else. And so they're symbols for the thing that is representing whatever that god is the god of.
So just to be clear, like, they are physical manifestations of something unseen? Is that what you're saying?
They are they are manifestations of the one.
Okay.
Because in the Bhagavad Gita it says the demigods are not the real God. I'm the God, and these are me. They're the manifestations of me. And I think that they could be beings from another dimension. They could be intelligent alien races that have evolved to a higher level of evolution than humans, and so humans would view them as gods because they're more powerful and they're basically like magic, if we saw one today. And so,
well, that's funny you say that. What is magic to you?
Magic is something that can't be explained.
Yeah, totally agree with that. It's like, that's all it is. Like, things that we now understand, we call it magic back in like the day, and they just kill people.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, could you imagine like having an iPhone or something and just like sending a picture to someone? Like, they'd hang us. Right. Like, what did he just do?
Yeah.
Kill him.
So, I mean, there's that, right? So like, maybe you could interpret that angels, that demigods, they're the same things, so and maybe they are made.
Spiritual texts are essentially trying to explain very esoteric information to the masses through different books, but the books are essentially saying the exact same thing.
That's my reading of it, of the ones I've read.
Love it, man.
Please feel free to send me more to read. I will love to read them. I love to read.
So many spiritual texts, dude. It's insane. But no, I love that. That's really good. That's really good. Dude, it's been great. Chatting
love
with
it,
you, man. Like, I feel like
this was fun.
I feel like I know a little bit more that I didn't know before, which is always good. Constantly learning new stuff about the people we love. If the people are looking for you, man, where can they find you? If we get the Christians want to come after you.
Hey, I grew up Christian. Yeah, I was.
So you were a Christian and now you're not.
Well, you kind of are given a religion when you're a kid, and then you grow out of it.
Most people don't. They just blindly follow it.
Yeah. The people can find me rizzofeels.com. Rizzo Feels on social media. LinkedIn, Brandon Rizzo. That's me. Where can they find you, man?
Love it, man. So you might have to start a Substack after this. If the people are looking for me, you can find me at judahclan.com. That'll take you to all of my socials. It'll take you to my companies and all of the good stuff that I'm doing. And you can find us at sidexsidepodcast.com, sidexsidepod on all social media. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share.
And we want to give a special shout out to our intern, Chase.
Chase, dude, he's soaking up the information. He's the best. And make sure you hit that notification button. And if you see this, if you made it this far, just type "Hey Chase" in the
Show
comments.
Him some love for the clips.
Man. Yeah. So until we're side by side next week, peace.
Thank you. Are you a small business owner, a young professional, or pre-retiree looking to grow and protect your assets but don't know where to start? With all the noise about stocks, bonds, cryptos, it can be hard to know what steps to take. Let Black Swan Financial Group help you so you can focus on doing what you're good at. Black Swan Financial Group is a telefinancial planning firm operating in select states nationwide. They're here to help you protect, create, and grow your assets. Visit blackswanfinancialgroup.com today to get your free consultation. Hey everybody, Brandon and Dimari from Side by Side here. Just want to tell you about one of our newest sponsors, Ease Web Development.
Ease Web Development specializes in building high-conversion websites and marketing campaigns that take your business to the next level. They're the easy decision when it comes to marketing.
So check them out now at www.easewebdev.com. That's ease, WEBDEV.com.